Thing on the tracks. It was near the end of high school, 2006-ish, fall in northern Wisconsin. Perfect stomping around town weather. One Friday after school, I was over at my on-off high school boyfriend Jay's house playing video games or whatever. Around 7 p.m., we typically would meet up with our whole crew at a local restaurant, but we still had several hours to kill. We were getting bored. I really missed those days. And it was so lovely out, so Jay suggested we go walk the train tracks on the west side of town. The town has been built up so much since then, but at the time there was only a fleet farm and a small burger joint near the tracks. And that was about it. Miles of woods on either side surrounded the tracks, as it was perfect weather, and that doesn't last long in Wisconsin. I agreed, and we jumped in his car and drove across town. We parked his little car to the side of the burger joint. At this point in the late afternoon, about dusk, the sun was about to set. We hop out of the car, walk about a block where the train tracks cross the street, hook a right down the tracks through the woods. That area didn't get as many trains going through as a different set of tracks in town, and there was also plenty of space to the left and right of the tracks. It seemed safe. You could see maybe a mile in each direction if a train was coming, and to either side it was just tall pines. We're walking down, balancing on the tracks, talking, jumping over stuff for about 5 or 10 minutes. Up ahead of us, we could see a few boxcars off to the side of the tracks. As we approached them, we could see that there were 2 boxcars attached to each other, maybe another 10 to 20 feet, and a single boxcar behind them. I got the heebie-jeebies as we approached the cars, but they were both shut. So as we peeked around on them, climbed up, etc., they were less menacing. We keep walking. The sun is down, and it's twilight. We're both looking down as we walk past the boxcars, balancing and such. We get past them maybe another length of a boxcar when I just have the sense to look up. That's when I see it. I stopped short. I swear the hair on my arm stood up. Suddenly I felt like a prey animal that had been spotted. Jay? What's that up there? There's someone on the tracks. He stopped and looked up. It looked like maybe a half-mile down the tracks, standing directly in the middle of them, with the shape of a person, or what I thought was, but for how far away it is, the figure was unnaturally tall, standing stiff, still, arms at sides, with what looked like the shape of a bowler hat or something. I can still picture it. Now, Jay doesn't mess around with ghost stories and alien tales. He's a non-believer, but he saw it too. We need to go, he said. He grabbed my hand and spun me back to the direction we came from. We were walking very briskly, but if you've ever been on train tracks, you know it's all small rocks and pebbles, so it's a little rough. About a minute passed. My heart was pounding. I looked back over my shoulder. This person, who was originally about a mile away, was so much closer. It's like he suddenly jumped half the distance between where he originally was to where we were. But still the same sickening, tall, fearless shadow with the hat, standing still, arms to sides, stood in the middle of the tracks. "Jay!" I screamed, making him whip his head around. I'd never seen this guy scared. He grabbed my hand tighter and broke off into a sprint. Jay's about 6 foot and I'm about 5'4", so his stride is a lot longer than mine. A couple years prior, I recovered from a fractured knee and femur, and it's common knowledge I cannot run. If you ever seen the cartoons of someone running and the other person is kind of flapping behind the runner, held by the hand, that's what I felt like. He took off. My legs moved, but my toes barely skimmed the tracks. We ran past the boxcars off to the side, and as we're about to get past the 2 that were hooked together, I stole one more frantic look over my shoulder. There he was, 1 boxcar away. Same weird proportions, like a dark opaque shadow. I swear my eyes bugged out of my head and my body and adrenaline kicked in. I forced my legs down and pushed myself into a run. We plowed forward, No more glances back. Hooked back into the street and frantically fumbled our way back into his car, slamming and locking the doors behind us. I remember both of us just sitting there, panting, staring forward for a good minute or two until snapping back to it with a what the hell. The sun went down, and nothing could be seen towards the tracks. We went to our hangout with the crew at 7, chomping at the bit to tell everyone what had happened. No one believed us or cared, really. I told my dad later on, and he says so many people died in that railroad. It was probably a ghost. Thanks, Dad. Fast forward to maybe 2011-ish, I'm in college. Jay and I break up and don't keep in touch. I get a text from him out of the blue, a link to that Slender Man game. I remember sitting in my dorm with a chill as I watched the preview and felt sick to my stomach. He now only moves towards you when you aren't looking and is frozen staring at you when you look back. I read the Wikipedia page and creepypasta and all that, and I know that all that stuff is made up, but the similarity to what we experience freaks me out. Present day, I looked up the chunk of railroad where it went down in my hometown on Google Maps. It's much more developed with shopping and housing around, but there is still a little stretch surrounded by trees, which is the one we walked down. I'm going back for Thanksgiving and was thinking about taking a trip to the tracks, but reading all these spooky stories made me change my mind. Just in case it's some entity, I don't want to take it back with me. Late night laughter. It's over 10 years ago I was fresh out of college and had moved back to my parents' house for a free rent food for 9 months. Before I was leaving the state for graduate school, I wanted to earn some scratch, so I took a part-time gig doing some light bookkeeping for a small business owner guy that my dad knew. They had a business where you could rent low-level farm equipment, small mom-and-pop type thing in the sticks. Since they knew my family, they trusted me to go in there for about 15 to 20 hours a week and check and file and do little things. Make sure nobody missed a payment date, etc., etc. I'd answer emails or discuss prices, availability. Super easy gig. The old building where I worked was about 90 years old at the top of this little hill. The downstairs used to be an old country bar until the 70s. I could work any hours I wanted as long as the work got done, so I usually go in around 7 p.m. and stay till around midnight or 1 a.m. Since I knew I'd be alone and could listen to the music loud and take my time, the office was on the second floor of the building and looked out into a long driveway. One night during winter it had snowed a few inches, but I was desperate to get out of the house, so I went to work around 8 p.m. I always left the gate open at the bottom of the hill since, believe me when I say that, nobody ever showed up at night. We were literally in the middle of nowhere. To even turn onto our short road, you had to only be coming to our specific building and know it was there beforehand. So I was jamming away to some Fall Out Boy. Everybody makes mistakes when they're young, right? I had some coffee. I kept glancing at the snow outside as I worked. Since our one orange street light reflected onto the ground at the gate and was causing the light to shine off the snow in a really cool, dare I say, beautiful way. Around midnight, I went downstairs to do my bathroom business and came back upstairs and got settled back into my work. I probably did about 5 minutes of work when I glanced outside and saw a huge imprint of something in the fresh snow just below the orange light. It seemed like a huge dog or substantial animal that had just rolled around on the ground there on its back or something. Since I didn't notice it 15 minutes before, it had to have happened while I was in the bathroom. I shook it off and assumed an animal was attracted to the light or something. Around 2 a.m. I was leaving and got out of my car to lock the gate. And to be honest, I had pretty much forgotten about the imprint in the snow. When I looked down, I was shocked to see that it wasn't just some disturbed snow, but it was undeniably the imprint of a human-made snow angel. I used to make snow angels when I was a kid, and they're also very recognizable, so I 100% knew for sure that it was what it was. And it was deliberately made underneath the light post. But it wasn't from a kid, it was from a very large person. And I already knew whomever had made the snow angel could easily have looked up and seen me through that window, so they must have waited for me to head downstairs to the bathroom to make this angel. No cars had pulled up to our building. I would have heard them even from the bathroom, so I glanced around for footprints in the snow and saw that there was one set that led to a nearby woods to the right of the building. It was clear the person didn't use the road, but instead came from the opposite side, which instantly made me uneasy, since that side was just trees and darkness for miles and miles. By now I was freaking out and trying to get back to my SUV, and that's when I heard it. Before I could get inside, I heard a loud, high-pitched laughing coming from the woods. It almost sounded like a fake laugh, like the witch in The Wizard of Oz, like someone was doing it fake on purpose. It was close enough that I knew they could see me, but I couldn't see them at all, since other than the street light I was under, there was no illumination. After a few seconds of laughing, they stopped, and then it was just silence everywhere, except for my heart beating through my ears. And the laughing started again, though louder this time, more like screaming and laughing combined. I sort of froze for like 5 seconds, listening in a panic. Now, I spent a lot of time in that area, and I know that they're coyotes and foxes, and they sound like that with their high-pitched screeches during the mating season. But this was very human. It felt like it was an adult man trying to emulate a woman laughing, like someone was deliberately trying to make a fake scary shriek laugh in order to scare someone. Well, it worked. After about 5 seconds, I immediately filled up with adrenaline, got in my car, and drove the hell away from there as fast as I could without sliding off the road. I worked there another 6 weeks or so and never had a single issue, though I knew where my boss kept his gun, and I always made sure it was there when I started my shift, and I certainly always locked the gate from then on.